So, hi, I'm Lynn Emerson.
I'm Renee LaVerry. It's Tommy's birthday.
We did have to say that. It is Tommy's birthday. So, we're also known as Dames with Dames. And we're here today to talk to you about emergency preparedness with your service dogs. It's something that Renee and I are very passionate about because we do a tremendous amount of education with EMS and first responders. So we wanted to share with you today a lot of the things that we've learned in working with the first responders, going from town to town and working with a lot of the EMS and first responders. We've not only been training them, but they've been training us.
Yeah, that's sort of the key. That's the big part we want to share because they've been great and what they've taken from us and learned and they're out there doing it, but what we've learned from them is what we really want to share too.
Right. So one of the things that's so important is when you have a service dog, it's really critical to remember that we're disabled. You know, everybody who has a service dog is disabled. And so you're coming to the table with issues and health issues, and it's something you have to be very honest about. And so it puts you in that percentage of the population that's at greater risk for needing EMS and first responders. So we wanted to make sure that it's something that you're aware of, and we wanted to share with you what we've learned in terms of how you can better help EMS help you in an emergency situation with your service dog. So one of the things that we've learned with them, and again, it's really a responsibility, and it's just another responsibility that you have with your service dog, really.
You know, when we think about the reason we have service dogs is for safety, with the mobility dogs especially. It's, we think about safety at home and safety out doing errands and out in the public. They keep us from falling and they keep us sort of independent. But you think about accidents still happen. So that's what we really want to share. It's like, there's still times when you're going to be in the car and something's going to happen. I mean, hopefully not, but and it's about being prepared.
Right.
Our responsibility to ourselves and to the dogs are to be prepared.
Right. So one of the best things you can do is to really communicate. And so those are the first things we want to go through. The biggest thing that you can do is have these great, and hopefully you can see it, is the Do Not Separate sticker. And these are great. And you can place these on, I'll hold it up again. So you can place these on your car and put them on your car window, and your back windows are great, or on your home. And the reason on your car you want to put them on your windows is, God forbid, if you're rear-ended, your bumper is the first thing that's going to go, but hopefully your car windows will stay intact. And have them on your home. It was something that we thought of, and we hadn't thought of until we started doing the training with first responders, is just like you have stickers on your house for your kids or your pets, but having that on your home to alert them that there's a service dog inside is just another thing that you can do.
There's also there's patches that you can get as well, and magnets that fit their car, secure enough for the car, and they can also go in your refrigerator. So it's a way of communicating to the first responder. There's something extra here. You've got to pay attention to the service dog and to keeping these people, the handler with the service dog.
Right. The other thing that's important for communication is what we found, and we were actually a little surprised to hear about this one ourselves. It's called the File of Life, and hopefully you can get a good shot of this. And this is the large size one that goes on your refrigerator. And this is the small one that you can carry with you either in your purse or put, and it says File of Life in the back one, or in your glove box. And it's interesting, we found out from EMS, when they come to your home, the first thing they do is they go to your refrigerator and look for information, which is interesting. Yeah, they raid your refrigerator for the beer, and then they come and help you. But the File of Life is great because it has, when you go into it, it allows you to put in all kinds of information for medical contact, emergency contact information, and then medical history. And you can put on there, information about your service dog as well as alternate contacts for your service dog. So it's great information to have. The other thing that we've done, and if you look at Willow's blog, you'll see it, but we also make up, and this is just a Avery postcard form 8387, I believe.
Blank one here. We can,
and it's actually,
that one is
so
that one's blank that we can
you can
post
put,
for people.
it's a very simple card with your picture and your service dog and any instructions for you
Insert picture here.
and your service dog. And then on the back, so you have information about them on one side and then information about you and emergency contact information on the back side. And you can use a clip or a binder ring to attach it to your go bag, to your purse, to backpacks, to anything.
It's just like a quick at a glance. It's got the picture view helps because they make sure that you're with that dog, and if the dog, God forbid, like escape from the car, it's at a glance. Do not separate this dog from the handler. It's a repeat of the sticker, and it gives them all the information they're going to need at quick glance.
Right. Willow's, for example, has a picture of Willow and I, because we realized that if they came to my house, they wouldn't know whether to take Willow or the Golden Retrievers. And heaven forbid, they need to take Willow, not the Golden Retrievers. And it has the fact that she's a service dog, and it has that what her commands are, that she's a balanced dog, she doesn't sit, and not to grab her handle if she has on her big mobility harness. And it says, I'm a balanced dog, I do not sit. Commands down, walk on, up, forward, back, stay. I'll do anything for a treat. Also, please only use my leash. My handle is only for mom to use. I'm not moved by it. So that they understand that if they tried to move her by her handle, she's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, the commands list is actually really important. We found when we were working with the EMTs, because some of them just aren't dog people. They're not familiar with dogs. When we sort of gave them their turn to handle the dog, they're just sort of like, it was like they had this little baby in their hands. They're like, what do I do with this? So having the commands and knowing that there's some default commands like down helps them, and the fact that our dogs don't do sit is another one. So that's sort of your first reaction from a dog person or a non-dog person would be like, sit. So that list is actually pretty helpful, and we didn't really think of that at first. They were sort of in working with them. We thought, it's probably helpful to have that. So that's another one of those things just in the interactions sort of came up. It's a good communication tool to include. Right.
And then the dog tag. So on your dog, when you're traveling in the car with your dog, you should always have a collar on them that has also emergency information. And you can get these large dog tags printed, where you can print on both sides at any commercial pet store. And it needs to have on it your vet's name, emergency contact information, the fact that your dog is a service dog. Willow's has, if injured, who her vet is, who to call, or to transport her to the nearest emergency vet. And then on the other side, it has the fact that she's a service dog, her name, and then two alternate contact names to call. So if, God forbid, something happens where we're injured in a car accident, this also provides information if, God forbid, she gets out. And then we also have her microchip ID tag if for some reason the scanner is not working. You should also have that on their emergency, what I call their emergency collar. So that's very helpful.
So when Lynn told her story that her car had been transformed for Willow, and when we first got our dogs, our cars became like our dog's car, and there's all sorts of, there's the bed and there's the extra dog food. And in working with these EMTs, we realized there needs to be, this additional sort of whole grab bag. And we're calling it the go bag. That just has everything in it that they'll need, that we'll need if there's an emergency. So we're gonna go through that whole.
Right. So
So
this
in addition
is
to other things you have in your car for your dog, this is its own sort of separate
right. So this is
pack.
the go bag, and this again is on Willow's blog of what it is. And so this is just on Amazon, $9.95 for the duffel bag, and you can just attach the patches so that right away it catches their eye. This is that tag we spoke about with all Willow's information, all my emergency contact information on the back. It's just attached with like a book, notebook ring. And then I use the extra leash to actually attach it to the car so that it sits right in the back of the car. This goes through a hook right on one of the headrests and it attaches. So they easily can see the leash and they can see the bag. And it has patches right on it that say that service dog and then do not separate. I'm just trying to see if you can see it. And then on the other side it also has service dog patches. And then in the bag, we have, you want to
Here
put,
Marilyn standing.
so another, extra leash and tags, an extra harness, an extra collar, which is this, an extra vest, collapsible bowl.
These are awesome. These are great to travel with. Just if you're
Right.
like traveling in the airport or something, those are great. I love those.
Cleanup supplies, because if you're keep thinking if you're taken to the hospital and your dog's going to go with you, what are you going to need for at least the first, let's say half a day or day until somebody else, can help you or get you extra stuff. So cleanup supplies, a fluffy or a mat. So I always carry Willow's, she gets just a nice purple fluffy. Extra food, so I always carry a day or two supply of food. And with food, you want to make sure you don't just keep it in there nonstop. Rotate this out like every couple of weeks. Use this food and then put new food in so it doesn't go bad. You want to, believe it or not, you want to actually put a muzzle in your go bag. And you're probably thinking, why? But here's why. God forbid if your dog is injured in a car accident, and get your dog used to wearing it. It's something that EMS, if they've been trained, would be able to grab this and muzzle your dog if your dog's been injured. And we've talked to EMS about this. They actually asked us that question.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's like the little light bulb moment when we were busy explaining how our dogs aren't aggressive at all, and there isn't like this ounce of aggression in them, and then one EMT asked, well, what happens if the dog is injured? And it's like, oh my gosh, that changes the whole story. If the dog is injured, you don't know what they're going to do to protect themselves, and so it's like the muzzle in the car is just, it's essential, and it's very easy to slip it right on. And so I was like forever thanking that EMT for bringing that up, because it makes total sense and I never would have thought of it. So I'm too busy saying how gentle it is.
Right.
And and an injured dog you don't know, so you want to have that in there. Oops, squeaky toy.
And get right. If they have a favorite toy, but this is Willow's favorite toy, so that goes in there. And then any extra meds. So if you need any emergency medication that you would need, it's a good idea to keep that in there. And if that is applicable, put those kinds of patches on your go bag if that's something you would need in an emergency. And it's important to have one of these go bags in your car and one of them right when you come into your home. So if EMS were to respond to your home, there's one of them just as they walk in the door. So they see it, they know. If you're alert, you can tell them to just grab it and go. If you're not alert, it should be, instruction should be also on your refrigerator to grab that. With your file of life. And you can just put that right on your refrigerator. And that way they can just pick it up and take it with you and your service dog, and you have everything with you in terms of supplies for your service dog. It just makes everybody's life much easier.
And it's funny because when I first brought Tommy home, people, were asking, well, what's it like, having your service dog? And, I still say it's a cross between a toddler and a date. Because you always have them with you and it's wonderful, but you have to have that diaper bag for slobber and, clean up. And this is just an extension of that, so you have to have that diaper bag for the toddler. Just out of responsibility, but also just, it's a way of communicating to the EMTs all that information as well. So
right, and it does make their life easier because they really do want to do the best they can to help. And all the EMTs and firefighters we've worked with have been just fantastic. We do a demo with them in terms of loading the dogs into the ambulance. We show them how to secure the dogs properly in the ambulance, and they've been absolutely wonderful. So anything we can do to help them help us, we think is incredibly important. And it's just going to make you safer as well. So it's really important, we feel.
It's funny how this started was with a phone call from the police station in a town nearby, and they had a service dog, and they didn't know, what was supposed to happen. It was this whole sort of confusion about the service dog at the hotel. And what happened is we ended up going, Lynn started and went and talked to the officer, and from there we ended up speaking in front of the whole county's chief of police meeting. There's a lot of brass in that room. And, yeah,
that's all Renee focused on.
But and they all listened to us. We were there with like the governor, for a woman that was running for governor. We got to speak first, and from there, it's like the police departments and the fire departments all around have been like, wow, very interested in in learning more about this. So it's great that we have this opportunity to share it with them and have their input in keeping us safe too.
Right. There's also, we should tell you, and you should check with all of your states. In Massachusetts, we're very fortunate. We have what's called the Mass Disability Form, where you can fill out that you're disabled, and then you file it with your town's dispatcher for 911. It goes into the system, and when you dial 911, it comes up. And on that form, you can even indicate what your disability is, some of your other issues, and you can indicate that you have a service dog as well. It works only when you're calling from your landline into 911, and it goes through that 911 dispatching system. Not all states have this. I just found out, speaking to someone from California, that they did not have it available in her area. But it's important to check with your state to see if you have that, because that's also a great tool to have. We're very fortunate here in Massachusetts, we do have that. So check with your state to see if you have that or something like that that you can file with your local dispatch office, so that if you do call 911 from your home, that information will come up as well, because that's just yet another tool.
There's something we didn't put in the go bag. Another handy thing to have in your go bag is a big sort of carabiner clip or giant D-ring. It's like the top of the
the
vest harness. It's a way to secure the dog in the ambulance.
Right. So this.
So you can take the clip, and secure the dog. Well, another thing we learned is many of our local ambulances they're cutting back, and they're cheap and small, and they can't, the dogs fit in some, but the literature that we've seen, they put the dog in the front in the old-fashioned days. Well, they can't turn the airbag off in the front in many of these. So you want to, just be aware of that, and if the dog is needing transport, if you're being transported in the ambulance and the dog needs transport and it doesn't fit in the ambulance, think twice before they go into they say, well, we can just put them up in the cab, because you want to make sure they don't have the airbag.
Where they can't shut the airbag off. And they can transport them in another official's vehicle, like the chief of police has an Explorer, or a police officer can transport them. So we can take some questions now. We already have a few. Molly's mom in Maryland. Once you received your service dogs, did it take long to train them to help with your specific needs? Well, we, both Willow and Tommy are program dogs from Service Dog Project in Ipswich. So they came when the way it works with Service Dog Project is they're fairly well trained through Service Dog Project as mobility dogs once we're matched. And then they work with us at Service Dog Project to then really fine tune them to individually train them to each of our needs. Renee and I often explain that because I have MS and Renee has Parkinson's. What Willow does for me is subtly different than what Tommy does for her.
So for the definition, I'm a word nerd, so if I'm repeating things that I've already said, but the definition of service dog with ADA is a dog that is matched up with someone with a disability, and the dog does specific tasks for that person with a disability, and it's individually trained for that person. So at Service Dog Project, for example, the dog, all the puppies, you see all the puppies, and, they start their training early on. They get spoon fed, they learn their names, so they all get that first sort of level of training, and then they go out and socialize. You've seen Megan at the mall, and then sort of that next level training. Then they do the commands and the sort of behaving in public, and all the everything but sit. But they graduate then to sort of the down state. So there's all these like levels of training. Then sort of way up at the top, they get trained for what their task is mobility, and so they're working with stabilizing and bracing, but even after that, then they get individually trained, like Willow with Lynn and Tommy with me. At that point, they're all mobility dogs, but they're going to be trained totally differently for the specific task that we each need. So Tommy's going to do something different, than Willow because it's what each of us need.
Yeah, and I would say once you receive your dog, it takes probably a good 6 months to sort of really, to answer your question, it's about 6 months to really sort of work it out, I would say. And
before you sort of been through every situation that you're going to be through.
Yeah.
Grocery store, travel, people who, pet them all the time. I mean, just every sort of.
But that's getting a fully trained dog. Yeah.
And it's like kids, the training happens all the time. They're still 30 and you're still telling them please and thank you. So this training is also sort of ongoing.
Yeah, so it does. It can take a little while.
I don't remember the question.
Yeah, how long did it take to train them to specific needs? But that's starting with the dog that's already well trained.
Throw that in. We both have progressive diseases, so we may need things as time goes on that they're not doing now, but we can go back and get additional training for something that we might need, in the future. So a lot of agencies work that way.
So Amy in Kentucky wants to know, when service dogs encounter a situation with rescue workers, what measures are taken to calm an overprotective service animal?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that an overprotective service animal should not be a service animal.
Those don't go together.
Right. That that's a huge issue. The one thing about service dogs is they should absolutely not be protective. And so when we work with EMS, one of the things, the way EMS is trained is make the scene safe, make yourself safe, and then attend to the patient. So, and we explain to them that if they encounter a scene and the dog is barking, growling, acting protective, if the patient is awake, they need to ask the patient to get the dog under control. If they cannot get the dog under control, then they need to ask them to remove the dog from the situation, because it is a matter of making themselves and the scene safe. A service dog should never be protective. If a service dog is protective, it's not qualified to be a service dog.
Yeah, the ADA actually has a line about that in the description, and that protection is not something that's considered part of the one of the tasks that a service dog does.
Right. And we actually do a demonstration where part of our class for EMS, an hour and a half of it is in the classroom, then we do a half an hour on the actual apparatus. We load one of these guys into the ambulance.
It's
We are,
working when she's loaded.
yeah, it's usually me. And I'm on the stretcher, and I have one of the poor EMTs be my victim.
Oh,
We all do. I have them lean over me, working on me, and then I start screaming loudly.
Banging on the floor.
Yeah, saying things like, get away from me, ow, you're hurting me. And the demonstration is that Willow stays laying next to me. Occasionally she'll look up, and I think actually she's looking up more like, oh, seriously, we're doing this again. But she is never protective, and that's the point. A service dog is never to be protective.
And if you think about the dog is with us all the time. So we've been at the dentist before where someone's hovering over us, drilling in our teeth, and we've been, the doctor's office, and, the dogs have been there when people have been working on us. So with an EMT working on us, Tommy would definitely sense the situation, and he would sense that he'd be nervous because the situation was tense. He'd sense that tension, but he wouldn't. Well, if he did anything, he'd pee. It wouldn't.
Right. It's
But
not. So the next question, Mew in Maryland, do you try to desensitize your SDs to sirens? I've had dogs that a siren didn't bother, but I've also had a couple that became very stressed, thinking of an ambulance trip. It's very funny now, if Willow hears a fire truck and a siren, she actually steps out, turns her head, and thinks she's supposed to go with them.
We were sitting in one of the training sessions at one point, and we didn't know they were going to do this, and they started testing the bells, and so it started bonging and binging, and it was like super loud, and all these like beeps, and remember that, and those guys didn't move.
Yeah,
At one point I think Tommy's son was like, "Oh, you woke me up," and they didn't move.
Yeah, they, I would say if you think it's a concern, I would certainly try to, but again, a service dog really should not be sensitive. I mean, Willow goes to concerts and theaters, and they should be pretty stable dogs. If they're out having public access, they shouldn't really be put off by much, because anything could happen at any time. So they need to be fairly stable. So, but if you think it's a concern, I would certainly work on that, and take them and expose them.
And a good place would be, the kids concerts. Tommy did my son's recital in like 5th grade, and he, how those sound. And it was when the cymbals went off. That one got him like his ears up. But the rest of the, honking and blowing, and he was fine.
Yeah, and
the applause, all of it. So
maybe go stand by your nearest fire station, park the car, and let them listen for a while. So ESCH88, I don't know how you'd pronounce that. How have your lives changed now that you both have a third wheel? I love that. That's awesome.
I guess we're a full set then if we go together.
Yeah. You go first so you can cry.
Oh, that's it.
Just get it over with.
It's like, you
I knew it was going to happen.
The dishes are way over there. It's like a toddler and a date. That's all I can say.
Here.
You go first.
All right. See, I knew I could bring you to tears, because now I'm going to cry too. This is awesome. This is what happens when we talk. We always end up in tears. But so it's incredibly life-changing. I tell people all the time, it totally changes your life. When I got Willow, I had become basically reclusive in a way which was so unlike me, which for people who know me, know it's not like me. But I was so afraid of falling that I had just stopped going out because it was so frightening for me. And once I had her and was confident in her, I started, excuse me, going back out and doing things again that, just going grocery shopping or going shopping, period. I felt comfortable doing. Going to CVS, I felt comfortable doing. It a huge difference. Even just being in my house is different because I feel safer going up and down the stairs. I'm not going to fall. Where before her, I didn't feel safe doing that. So it totally changes your life. It's completely amazing what happens, but it's also this incredible responsibility. So you have to really weigh it.
And everything you're thinking, you know, wherever you go, you're always thinking of the dog. It's like, you know, if you're driving with someone else, will you fit in the car? You know, going to a friend's house is, you know, are there any allergies? You know, it's like the dog is always with us. And I remember walking into a shop and, you know, these tiny little shop boutique kind of things, and the person, I think he was just being like nice. He wasn't trying to say the dog doesn't belong here. He was like, you know, oh, can I hold your dog while you look around? I'm like, yeah, that's like saying, why don't you just take my leg off? You know, and he's an appendage. I mean,
Right? You don't.
Yeah, it's like
You don't. That's it, though. You don't do anything. They're with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't do anything without them, and so everything you do is, you know, okay. Am I going to be able to do it? And is it going to be at her dinner time? Do I need to feed her there? Willow just groaned. I don't know if you heard that. You already ate. Is it, you know, am I going to have to walk her while I'm there? You have to think of everything you do now has to be thought of with her in mind. And, you know, your car will never be clean again. Never. No, it won't. Will it, Willow? You know, it's just your whole life is now about, you know, your dog too. It's, you know, but it's also about your dog too. You know, it's, you know, the good of your dog, you know, and she just crawled up here. You know, it's how much this dog changes your life. I mean, she sleeps right here with me. And that's how much of a partnership it is. And it's become so seamless that I can't imagine not having her. It's amazing.
I had a woman approach me in the grocery store the other day. She was, you know, admiring his vest, and where did you get the do not pet sign? I'd love that for my dog. And I said, well, he's a service dog. She says, oh, so's mine. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not with you. And she didn't have the dog with her. It's like, it wasn't in the mood for a conversation. I just said, oh, okay, you know, and sort of moved my card on. But it's like, it's not a service dog if it's not with you. It's like I said, it's an appendage. And I don't mean that in a, like, you know, in a bad way. It's part of you. It's like you're always thinking, you know, first thing in the morning is, you know, they have to go out and they have to be fed. So if you're like a cat person, service dog might not work.
Yeah. Okay. From Tuppy Cat. Now that you have both become quite the public face for Great Dane service dogs, you get a lot of calls for help and advice from other new recipients. Not a lot, but I do. I think we both do hear from other, you know, and not just from Great Dane people, but from other service dog recipients, which is great. And you know, don't mind it at all. You know, anything we can do, I think Renee and I both feel that way, to help other people as they're acclimating. I've talked to people who are just considering getting a service dog. And I think that's great too, to, you know, people that are smart enough to ask the questions before they go down the road. That shows a lot of insight, I think, because it is a huge responsibility. It's a huge undertaking, and it isn't that easy. You know, it's not, and it's not for everybody. I will say that, because your life, you know, you don't just go to the grocery store anymore. You don't just do anything anymore.
I never finish my grocery list.
Right. So you really do.
People stopping you, and you know, and it's usually very positive, but you know, I never get my grocery list finished.
Right. So it's, you know, I don't mind at all talking to anybody.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. So from Karka, while out in public, are there ever times when you can let people interact with the dogs, or might it just confuse the dogs?
The key to this one is the command comes from us. So if someone says, you know, can I pet your dog? As they're leaning forward, I step him back. Because it's not, I'm not just going to say, okay, and that command, comes from the person approaching the dog. We're their handlers. They're waiting for us to give them a command and to talk to them and tell them what's up. So we'll say, if you'd like to say hello, you say hello to the dog. So that for me, that's the key. Is it's not just sort of this, I don't need him right now. I'm feeling pretty stable. Go ahead. It's like, no, I need to talk to the dog and let him know what's going on. And then, yes, you can say hello. After my yoga class every week, Tommy knows you can get up and like go say hello, make the round, say hello to everyone. There's one gentleman that always brings dog cookies for him. So he knows he has to wait till the end. But he also knows he can't just get up and walk around until I tell him he can. So it's like, even though it's every week, and even though these people are all familiar with the Tommy, it's like he still has to wait for me to say so.
Right. And we always do, at the end of, when we're done with the firefighters and the EMTs, we always say, go say hi, and that's their command that they're released, and they get to go and mingle with all the firefighters and the EMS, and they love it.
They all go with dog for me.
Yeah. I mean, now, when Willow sees a guy in a firefighter uniform, she thinks that's like, high time. She doesn't know, doesn't matter. She sees him in the grocery store. She thinks she needs to go say hi. It's very funny. But it is. That's exactly it. It's the command. If I say, go say hi, she'll step forward to be petted. And it's interesting because she'll actually let them pet her for a couple seconds, and then she'll actually step back.
And that's sort of important when, when you're in an emergency situation, assuming you're still lucid and, that part of the calming for the dog is going to be the voice. Tommy will sense that there's tension, but if he's next to me in the ambulance, shivering, I'm going to just use my voice and tell him what's going on. And so it's like almost anything. It's like, and I said the word command, and it's a conversation. I'm always talking to him. So it tells him what's up.
Right.
Whether it's a calming thing or it's a, it's a no, I need you now thing.
Next one from Tessawate. I'll go with that one. If someone at work is allergic and an employee or a consultant needs to bring a service dog in with them, how is this solved? So according to the ADA, allergies are not a reason to exclude a service dog. What the ADA suggests is that both the person with the allergy and the person with the service dog is accommodated. And their suggestions are, A, obviously the person with the allergy does not pet the service dog, common sense. And B, you would put them in 2 different locations. Or no, I shouldn't say 2 different locations, but try to separate them. So the ADA actually uses the example of a homeless shelter in a classroom. You don't ask us why. But so you would put the person with the service dog in that part of the room and the person with the allergy in that part of the room, just keeping them, apart.
Yeah, like if you're at a restaurant or something.
Right, and that's the same thing. But you never exclude the service dog because of an allergy. That's the most important key to that. And that's actually in the ADA. Crafty. I love that. Any special plans or treat for Sir Thomas's 4th birthday today?
Well, I had mentioned a birthday cake. I was thinking of party hats, but I don't think he'll like that. But yeah, he likes treats. He's got a very sensitive stomach, so we might be eating the cake and then giving him, a little more of his extra food, but he won't get cake. Great Dane and diarrhea, not 2 words in the same sentence.
No, especially service dog.
Yeah.
Amy, do you know if service dogs are allowed in service rescue vehicles in all 50 states? They absolutely should be, because emergency response vehicles are considered public. Oh, shoot, Willow just spilled this. And so that is considered public access. And so that is, so why not? Absolutely need to be allowed. Yeah, and that's one of the starting in Washington that they are allowed. And we'll, just keep continuing. Are considered public. We'd like to train ADA to get it done as public, but it is a professional public access, and so they absolutely are allowed. Safford, do you and or anyone who calls for EMS or first responders tell the dispatcher that you have a service dog to begin the communication? You absolutely should.
I mean, if for any other reason they might need to bring another vehicle to transport the dog if it doesn't fit in the ambulance.
Right, and part of this, what we call the SOG, that when we train, that goes out to the different fire departments that they've put in place. Part of their procedure is when they're calling ahead to the hospital, if they're transporting a patient with a service dog, is to call ahead to the hospital and let them know as when they're calling ahead saying that they're bringing this patient. Part of their communication is that they're also bringing a service dog with them. Sassy Bells 5. When I had a dog 10 years ago, I had a difficult time finding reflective gear for night walks. Do you have reflective info card, vests, leashes, etc. for Willow and Sir Thomas? Actually, the patches on Willow's mobility harness are reflective.
Mm-hmm.
All of her patches and the stickers and everything come from Creative Clam. They may have some. I don't know about vests or anything.
Active Dog probably has them. Yeah.
We had a spill, sorry.
But we're prepared.
Yes, we are prepared. Jody from Maryland, is there standard training for EMTs across the country regarding dealing with service dogs? No.
But we've launched one here in the state.
We're working on it. New York State actually has a state mandated SOG, as they call it, which is great. So New York State has state mandated. I'm not sure which other states already have that in place. We need to look into that, but New York State does. We're hoping to get it state mandated in Massachusetts, which would be great. By the time we're done, all the towns will be trained, so why not?
And then they'll have to come to Washington.
Yeah, and Renee's going to be starting in Washington State. And we'll, just keep continuing. Hopefully, we'd like to train some trainers to get it done elsewhere. But it is a professional development class. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And
they get the credits for it. And
right.
So, yeah, and it's state approved. So
right, they get continuing ed for it. So hopefully we'll get more of it done across the country. Willow and I were just in Chicago and we did a group out there. So it was awesome. Let's see. TX Elements. Is there one more important change that you would like to see brought to the world's attention about service dogs?
Frauds.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say fraud. Service dog fraud is a huge one.
Yeah. Sorry, though.
Definitely. That's a huge issue. It's going to take a lot to combat it. It needs to be combated on a lot of different sides. And
what really hit home for me is, the fraud thing is disturbing enough as it is, but working with these EMTs and just seeing, what they do, what their jobs are, and they let them put their lives on the line. If there's a fake service dog, like with an EMT, and that dog isn't, is aggressive, and that's so wrong. I mean, it's so much more wrong than just trying to get on a plane, which is bad enough, but to fake your service dog and then an EMT has to come in and they're already risking that.
Yeah,
that was really bad. So yes, I would say fraud.
Yeah, Bobby 212, your shirts are adorable. Did one of you design them? Where can we get one? Oh, well, that would be Renee. Renee's the artist. Renee's like the artist, the word nerd, the creative brains.
It's modeled after Walter's puppy picture.
Yes, it's on our brochures. It's actually going to be the graphics on our website, which is, it's sort of up. It's not live, but at least we got a homepage up.
We do have a few t-shirts left. We make them, and anything that we get from them, we send right back to.
We donate the profits from
any kind of service dog
Yeah,
agency.
it's on our brochure. Yeah. Renee's the creative part of the whole thing. It's amazing.
I'm not real organized
Oh, she's very organized. Sometimes.
though.
From Dawn, when placing a service dog into a house with children, what training do the kids and dog have? That's hard that's not something really we can answer. It would depend on the dog and the kids, and it would, probably depend on the program you got the dog from.
I'm thinking that wouldn't wait until the dog is, placed in the home. I'm thinking that would start well before the matching happens. That is this dog a good match for kids? So that's going to start, early on in the training if it's an agency trained dog.
Right. Yeah, that's something.
So it's not just like, oh, we have one of those kids. They're gonna be thinking about that way ahead of time.
Yeah, you'd really want to talk to whatever agency you're working
Of
with.
course, on the flip side of that, it took about a month before Tommy would even approach my husband. So he had to like put chicken bits, on the edge of the desk, and then slowly put them a little closer on his lap, and then he could actually hand it to him. And now he's like, the cat's meow.
He's discerning. Any more questions? I don't see any more for now. So any more questions? Type them in.
Come on. How about kiss? We'll say happy birthday. Come on. How about good boy?
Willow, you want to come up?
Wake up.
Come up in camera so people can see you.
Good boy, good boy.
Willow, come here.
There you go.
There you go.
There's my boy.
There you go.
Okay.
So there.
Okay.
There
you go.
So
There's the birthday boy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's the
Oh,
birthday
does that make you happy? Okay. Go lay down.
Okay, buddy. Okay, Tommy, go
Well,
lay down.
go on.
Alright, any other? Come in.
From Four Wheel Girl, would you be willing to come out and educate Waltham Police, Fire, and EMTs? Oh, absolutely. And we have blanket OEMS numbers, so they get 2 credit hours, the fire department, all the way through paramedic 2 level. So we have a blanket approval number, so they get 2 credit hours of continuing ed. So absolutely.
It's funny because the classes they're sort of mixed, and I think when we show up, and a couple of them are sort of like, yeah, I gotta take this class, and most of them are enthusiastic to start, but by the time we're done, they're like asking questions, and they're like, wow, what about, and they can't wait to get down into the ambulance and see how the dog's gonna react and get in there. So it's actually we'd love to.
Yeah, we absolutely would love to do it.
Them.
Yeah, if you have a contact at Waltham or you're in Waltham, yeah, absolutely reach out to us and we'll definitely come and do it. So, in a heartbeat. Any more questions? Anyone? Andy, do you have a question?
What was it? What's the sort of thing that you learned most? What's the thing that pops into your head is?
I have to say, I was really, really surprised. The one thing that I learned the most was the file of life. This cracked me up when they ever, pulled the file of life out and said to us, hey, have you guys seen this?
It was funny because we've already done, I don't know how many trainings, and this is universal.
Right.
They all have it.
And when they ever said, oh, we go right to your refrigerator and look for this, Renee and I both were like, what?
Yeah, so.
You go to our refrigerator? Why would you go to our refrigerator? But it's universal. That's what they're trained to do.
So there's actually, you can look up file of life, .org or something, and they have all the information that you can get.
Right. And this is, so you can get this from, in your towns, you can go to your local senior centers will always have these. Don't be afraid to walk in there if you're not old. Or your local fire departments will have these. So this is something you can easily get in town. Oh, we have another question. Oriole Betty on Cape Cod. Ivy was not allowed in the ambulance when I had to be transported to the ER. Ambulance was too small. Can you educate here on Cape Cod? Absolutely.
Only in the summer. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say not in the summer when you can't get across that bridge down there. That's ridiculous.
You will go in an ambulance.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. We've covered everything. And it's,
If we learn anything else from trainings, we'll put that on our website.
yeah, it's everything, all the information is on Willow's blog as far as the go bag, and we have pictures of how it's attached in the car and everything. And everybody pretty much knows how to get in touch with Renee and I. If you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them. And if anybody has a local fire department that they want us to go out and train that we haven't trained, we're happy to do that as well.
I have another.
Well, okay, all right.
Oh, another it's not an issue, but when you get into it, you take the dogs are allowed in the hospital. However, there aren't always places to take the dog for relief. They don't, especially this winter in Boston.
Oh, that's right. I did run into that.
There was nowhere to go, and so one thing we'd love to do in our spare time, James would think we'd like to, alert hospitals to have a relief area. If they're plowing, just plow that little extra spot so the dog has somewhere to go. They're allowed in the hospitals, but if you can't find anywhere to walk the dog or let the dog out,
right? Because that did happen to me.
There's no point, and you can't, then you can't take it.
It prevented me from being admitted, and so I had to go back and forth to the hospital for IV medications every 8 hours over a couple of days, which was not fun.
I'm sure it's just an awareness thing. They're not thinking, oh, there's nowhere for them to be, but we're always thinking that because
Right.
there are appendage.
So, but yeah. So again, thanks for joining us. We had a great time.
And happy birthday, Tom.
And happy birthday, Tommy! Yay, Tommy!
My boy. Oh, we even woke up.
So we'll
Such
see
a
you
good
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Are we?